Hello, everyone. Ryan from the Canadian Football Countdown here, bringing you another little CFL Free Agency positional preview here today, talking all about the defensive line this time. We're previewing a position a day leading up to our big Free Agent Frenzy live show, Tuesday, February 14th, just a couple days away. 8 hours of live coverage of the opening day of CFL Free Agency, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. We'll be breaking down all the news and signings as they happen. You can join us live on any of our platforms and subscribe over on YouTube, youtube.com/@CFCountdownPod, where you're finding this right now. And make sure you follow us on social media there as well. It's going to be a fun day. Lots of great coverage planned throughout the day for that one. But let's dive in and take a look right now at the defensive line position and see what teams have currently, who's available, and where some of these guys may go. Let's switch over to our free agency tracker here. And let's take a look at what teams currently have under contract. The past couple of videos, we've been going top down alphabetically. Let's start in the reverse this time around, switch it up a little bit. Let's start off by taking a look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who have brought back most of their defensive line from last season. Willie Jefferson, Jackson Jeffcoat, two of the top defensive linemen in the CFL, were signed once again for another season here. Jake Thomas, the longest standing member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, also being brought back for another season here. Those three make up kind of the core of the defensive line here. They did lose Casey Sales to free agency already, so that is a bit of a loss there for the Bombers. But they've got guys like Ricky Walker, whose rookie year was 2021, or Cole Adamson, 2022 rookie year. These are some guys I think they're very high on that could potentially step in and fill one of these roles here. Theodric Hansen, also a guy that really likes to rotate. They like to rotate in and out of the position there as well. So the Bombers are a team that I can see at this point not really making a big move on the defensive line. Most likely, I think they're going to be looking to start building up some of these younger pieces like a Cole Adamson, like a Cameron Lawson for the future, because Jefferson, Thomas, Jeffcoat, you look at those guys, they're all over 30 years of age. How much time do they have these guys for yet, right? Before you need to start building for the future. So if anything, I think the Bombers are a team we're going to see bring maybe some younger pieces in, but I could also see them building that through the draft. Let's go to the Toronto Argonauts, the 2022 Grey Cup champs. They've already made one big move on the defensive line, and that's they've got a pending contract with Folarin Arimolade from the Calgary Stampeders. He had a great year last year, 37 tackles, 6 sacks, even got an interception and a forced fumble in there. I think he was one of the top defensive linemen available out there on the market, and the Argos, shocker that they brought in another former Calgary Stampeder. He joins the likes of Sean Oakman, Robbie Smith, Dwayne Hendricks, Samuel Acheampong. This is a pretty solid front crew here for the Toronto Argonauts. I know they still have some pending free agents, some bigger ones we'll take a look at here shortly, like Shane Ray. But I think bringing in a guy like Arimolade is a good move as a starting point here for the Argos defense. And I think they've got the pieces here to build a successful defensive line around for this season. The Saskatchewan Roughriders have made a few moves here on the D-line already. They did let AC Leonard go, which was a bit of a surprise, as he's been one of the top defensive linemen over the past couple of seasons. But they did manage to lock up their two arguably biggest pieces at the position. Pete Robertson, Anthony Lanier, both brought back for 2023 under new contracts. Charbel DeBayer, great Canadian defensive line pickup there for them. And also bring in Stephen Banks, who played with the Calgary Stampeders last season. That is a pending transaction that's going to hit when free agency officially kicks off. You've got other guys that have rotated in there as well over last season. You see Miles Brown played 13 games. DeMarcus Christmas played 15 there as well. The defensive line for me, for the Riders, is not a position they need focus on in free agency. I wish they would have been able to keep AC Leonard around, but I think they've got pieces here to build around and a lot more holes at other slots that they should be focused on. The Ottawa Red Blacks managed to bring back their top defensive lineman and one of the top ones in the CFL, if not the top one in the CFL last season. Lorenzo Malden, 17 sacks in 2022, a heck of a year for him. And he got a new contract as a result of that. The Red Blacks managed to get him back under contract, which is huge. I think that is a huge move for them to be able to bring him back. They've got some additional pieces there that, I think are promising or are well-known pieces on the defensive line. I mean, Cleon Lang's been in the league since 2013. He put up 3 sacks last season, played a whole 18 games there. And just recently bringing back Michael Wakefield, a former member of the Red Blacks, went over to the Montreal Alouettes for the past couple of years. He is a pending addition coming on Tuesday there as well. So they've already started to make a move there. They've managed to, lock up their biggest piece long term here. Kenny Onyeka had a solid year. Trey Hornbuckle. The defensive line, I think they've got some good pieces here in Ottawa to build around as well. There, of course, all these teams, it seems like they've got pretty decent defensive lines, but there's some big fish out there. So even when I say this, we'll take a look at the free agents available shortly. There are some guys that definitely any of these teams could still be looking to bring in at the right price. The defensive line for the Montreal Alouettes has a lot of their starters coming back for this season as well. Mike Moore was their leading defensive lineman last season. He's under contract for another year. Armando Sewell, 36 years of age, been in the league since 2011. He is under contract through 2024. 2 more years of Armando Sewell in Montreal. Nick Usher, Jamal Davis have been rotating pieces of that offensive line over the past few years as well. Or defensive line, sorry. And a guy that, maybe we see get into more of a role this year. I know it's a guy they're high on is Canadian Brock Gowanlock. Interestingly, Montreal, one of those teams that really has been mostly American on the defensive line. So we'll see if when free agency rolls around, if that's something they continue with, or whether we see them go out and try to get a Canadian option. The Hamilton Tiger Cats D-line is going to look quite a bit different, I think, this coming season. They've already made a couple of key moves to kick off the offseason here, pending transaction, bringing in Casey Sales, who spent last season with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. 2024 is when his contract expires, so a 2-year deal for him. He had a really strong year in his sophomore season last year, putting up 6 sacks. They managed to bring back Malik Carney, their leading sack man from last season, as well. Dylan Wynn's always one of a really strong defensive lineman. Brought back Ted Laurent for 1 more year. Again, another guy, been around for a long time. Bit of a reduced role starting last season, but, he's a guy who can still get it done. And possibly one of the biggest underrated free agent signings because maybe he fell off people's radars last season because he missed the year due to injury. Kwaku Boateng, former member of the Edmonton Elks, signed with the Red Blacks last offseason, ended up going and I believe tearing his Achilles in training camp, so did not play all season. He can be, when healthy, one of the top D linemen in the CFL. So I think the Ticats are a team pretty impressively set up here on the D line. This is a scary looking front crew here for that Ticats defense to build the backbones of their defense around for this season as they try to make that big Grey Cup push while hosting it. The Edmonton Elks have made a few early moves in free agency as well. AC Leonard, aforementioned, was released by the Riders and about 20 seconds later picked up by the Edmonton Elks, reuniting with Chris Jones. Then Chris Jones likes bringing in a lot of his former players, and he's done so again here. He joins the likes of Jake Sresna, Avery Ellis, Christian Rector, as some of these guys that are kind of the mainstays of this defensive line. I think there could potentially be a few more pieces we look to see the Elks bring in here on defense for this coming season, assuming they have the money after all they're reportedly spending at wide receiver. Looking at the Calgary Stampeders, every year they seem to find some standouts on defense, and most of the time they end up getting purged by other teams. But I think they are they managed to keep a lot of them around. Mike Rose, Derek Wigan, these are two top defensive linemen there. Isaac Adeyemi Berglund, 8 sacks last season, led the team in that category. A fantastic year for him. And, sometimes you get those underrated signings that are coming from the NFL, right? Guys that used to be in the CFL, they went off to the NFL. All of a sudden, they've tried around, bounced around there for a little while. They decide to come back. That's James Vaughters. James Vaughters used to be a really good, solid piece there for the Stampeders before he did try the NFL a couple seasons ago, and they brought him back in for the 2023 season. So a formidable front four here for the Stampeders. And finally, looking at the BC Lions, let's take a look at what they've got. They've got some good Canadian talent here. David Menard led the team in sacks last season. He's back for another 2 years under contract. Matthew Betts, another 7 sacks for him. And 2022 draft pick Nathan Cherry, only 24 years of age. Could we see him be a guy to get a little bit more usage for the team going forward? They also had, breakout star last year, Sione Teuma. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. Rookie season in 2022 put up 8 sacks there. He was a bright piece of that D-line, and I think he's a bright piece of the future there. Woody Barron brought back just yesterday, I believe, on a 2-year contract extension there. So, and then where does Steven Richardson play into things for this defensive line? I wonder. He was another guy that, he went over from Winnipeg after some strong playing time there, went to BC, ended up getting injured, didn't really play last season. But if he is healthy, could he be a guy that jumps up the ranks here on the Lions defensive line? Let's take a look at the free agents available. Again, I mentioned there are some big names here available. Sean Lemon is the one that leads the way, far and away. 14 sacks last season for him, 5 forced fumbles. He was a machine last year. He's at 34 years of age, and he's definitely still getting it done. And he's a guy who seems to constantly bounce around between team to team. Might be one of the closest ones completing the Kevin Glenn special. And I just wish a team would be able to, lock him down here. But it seems like he deserves a pay raise. I don't know if the Stampeders are going to be able to bring him back under that. So we'll see where Sean Lemon goes next. If you want to make it to the Grey Cup, you sign Jagarrett Davis. Jagarrett Davis, if I'm remembering correctly, has played in 6 straight Grey Cups. His entire career, he has made the Grey Cup every season. So, I think every team should be at least putting in some sort of offer for him. Great year last year, 36 tackles, 7 sacks for him. Julian Hauser, Micah Johnson. I talked about that Ticats defensive line looking good with some of their new additions. Those are guys that are going to rotate in and, spell off in Hauser, Micah Johnson, who look to be headed elsewhere in free agency here. Those are guys who are able to put up some pretty strong numbers there as well. Just like Charleston Hughes, 39 years of age, been in the league since 2008, still managed to put up 4 sacks last season with the Riders. Seems like he is on his way out and potentially headed elsewhere if he's looking to continue his career this offseason as well. We could go through all of the names on the list here. You can feel free to pause the video, take a look at the stats here on all of these players. We'll go through them more in depth, as the board starts to thin out on our big free agency live show. But you'll notice a lot of the top defensive linemen here available are American. So if there's teams, looking to make an upgrade in the Canadian spot, let's take a quick look at what you've got there. Thomas Costigan is probably the biggest name on that list. Former Montreal Alouette, 4 sacks for him last season, played the whole 18 games there. McKenna Henry's been known to have a couple good seasons in him there. Most recently with the Edmonton Elks. But there aren't a ton of Canadian D linemen here available in free agency. So if teams are going to, go out and land one of these pieces, well, it's going to have to be an American piece at this position. All right, so that's what we're looking at the defensive line here this week, heading into free agency, which starts on Tuesday. Reminder to check out our free agent frenzy coverage. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel ahead of time, get notified when we go live. Follow us on all the social media platforms at CF Countdown Pod over there. And let us know in the comments section here what you think about the defensive line for your team. Do you like where they stand currently? Do you want to see them make a move when free agency hits here? Stay tuned for more positional previews as well. I will have a second one out today just to make sure we get to them all before Tuesday. So we'll talk about the linebackers a bit later on today as well. And then we've got defensive backs and the special teams, kicker, punter, long snapper, etc. coming out yet. All before free agency officially hits. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out all of the great content we have here to come on the Canadian Football Countdown.